Imagine this. It's a Tuesday morning. You wake up, pour yourself a cup of coffee, and out of habit, you open your investment account. The number looks different. You blink. Refresh the page. Refresh it again. Nothing changes. Somehow, while you were sleeping, your investments made more money in a single month than you managed to save during the entire previous year. No promotion. No overtime. No second job. No brilliant stock pick. No lucky crypto gamble. You didn't work harder. You didn't become smarter overnight. You simply woke up, and your money had quietly gone to work without you. For most people, that sounds impossible. Almost fictional. After all, we've spent our entire lives believing that money only comes from effort. You work. You earn. You save. You repeat. It's the rhythm we're taught from childhood. If you stop working, the money stops coming. Except, one day, that rule quietly stops being true. Not for billionaires. Not for hedge fund managers. Not for lottery winners. For ordinary people who stick with investing long enough. There comes a point where the biggest contributor to your wealth is no longer your paycheck. It's your portfolio. And what's fascinating is that almost nobody notices when this happens. They keep obsessing over every dollar they save. They keep skipping vacations. They keep feeling guilty every time they spend money. They keep acting like they're still carrying the entire financial burden, even though something else has already taken over. Today, we're going to find that exact moment. The invisible line where your investments begin working harder than you do. We'll discover why most people never reach it, why many people who do reach it never realize they've crossed it, and why recognizing this moment might be one of the most important financial decisions you'll ever make. Because this isn't really a story about investing. It's a story about time, freedom, and knowing when you've finally earned both. Every great machine has a moment. Think about an airplane preparing for takeoff. Before it ever reaches the clouds, there's a long stretch where everything feels like resistance. The engines roar with incredible force. Thousands of gallons of fuel are burned every hour. The wheels rattle violently against the runway. The entire aircraft seems to be fighting the earth itself. From the cabin, passengers barely notice the struggle. They're checking their phones, flipping through magazines, or staring absent-mindedly out the window. But outside, an enormous battle is taking place. Every second, the engines are pushing against gravity, against friction, against the simple fact that something weighing hundreds of thousands of pounds was never meant to fly. For what feels like forever, nothing seems to change. The plane is still on the ground, still accelerating, still fighting. Then, without fanfare, something remarkable happens. The wheels lose contact with the runway. There's no dramatic explosion of applause. No flashing lights announcing the moment. Most passengers don't even realize exactly when it happened. Yet in that single instant, everything has changed. The plane isn't trying to become airborne anymore. It already is. The struggle that defined the first part of the journey has quietly been replaced by something entirely different. Now the engines aren't battling gravity in the same way. They're maintaining momentum. The hardest part is behind them. Money follows almost the exact same pattern. For years, sometimes decades, your financial life feels like you're endlessly racing down that runway. Every dollar inside your investment account depends on you putting it there. You work for it. You budget for it. You sacrifice weekends for it. You skip vacations. You say no to purchases you genuinely wanted. Every month, you transfer another contribution into your investment account, hoping that someday all these small decisions will add up to something meaningful. But if you're being honest, it rarely feels meaningful. You check your portfolio after 6 months. It's barely moved. After a year, the gains don't seem large enough to justify the sacrifices. Then the market drops. Months of disciplined investing disappear in a matter of weeks. You begin questioning everything. Was this really worth it? Wouldn't life be easier if you simply enjoyed the money instead? You hear people talk about compound interest like it's some magical force capable of creating fortunes. Albert Einstein supposedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. Finance books worship it. Podcasts celebrate it. Every investing expert promises it will eventually transform your life. But from where you're standing, it feels suspiciously like a fairy tale. Because nothing about your account looks magical. The growth is slow. The progress feels invisible. Some years you gain. Other years you lose. It feels less like building wealth and more like carrying a heavy backpack uphill, one exhausting step at a time. What you don't realize is that something far more important is happening beneath the surface. The machine is getting bigger. Every contribution adds another gear, another piston, another source of power. Imagine trying to push a giant flywheel. The very first push barely moves it. The second doesn't seem much different. Neither does the 10th. You lean into it with all your strength, wondering whether it's even moving at all. Then, almost imperceptibly, the wheel begins turning on its own. Each rotation creates a little more momentum. Each turn makes the next one easier. Eventually, the flywheel becomes so heavy and so fast that keeping it moving requires almost no effort compared to getting it started. Your investment portfolio behaves exactly the same way. At first, you're doing nearly all the work. Eventually, the portfolio starts working alongside you. And one day, without making any announcement, it starts working harder than you do. The remarkable part is that there isn't a bell that rings when this happens. No email arrives congratulating you. No bank notification says, "Congratulations, your money has officially taken over." The transition is completely silent, which is why so many people cross that invisible line, without ever realizing they've crossed it at all.
Meet Ethan and Claire. To understand what that looks like in real life, let me introduce you to two people. We'll call them Ethan and Claire. They're both 36 years old. They live in the same city. They both earn respectable middle-class incomes. Neither comes from wealth. Neither received a life-changing inheritance. Neither built a billion-dollar startup. Neither stumbled into Bitcoin in 2012 or bought NVIDIA before anyone knew what artificial intelligence was. In fact, if you looked only at their financial statements during the first 10 years of investing, you'd probably assume they were living identical lives. Every month, money left their paycheck and went into index funds. Every year, their account balances crept a little higher. Some years, the market rewarded them with double-digit gains. Other years, it punished them with painful declines. They celebrated bull markets. They endured bear markets. Through it all, they stayed consistent. While co-workers upgraded cars every few years, Ethan and Claire kept driving reliable older vehicles. When friends booked expensive vacations, they often stayed home, quietly adding another contribution to their investment accounts instead. People didn't understand them. You're still saving for retirement? You're only in your 30s. You should enjoy life while you're young. Even family members questioned why they were so disciplined. To everyone else, their financial lives looked painfully ordinary. No flashy investments. No luxury lifestyle. No overnight success. Just years of quiet consistency that hardly anyone noticed. If you'd asked either of them whether they were getting rich, they probably would have laughed, because it certainly didn't feel that way. Then, one ordinary Saturday afternoon, something happened. Not to their portfolios, to the way one of them thought. Ethan was reviewing his finances, not because he was worried, but because he enjoyed understanding how things worked. He opened a spreadsheet, pulled out a calculator, and asked himself a question that almost nobody thinks to ask. Not, how much have I saved? Not, how much is my portfolio worth? But something much more interesting. How much did my investments earn this year, compared to what I contributed? At first, it sounded like a meaningless curiosity, just another number. But as he ran the calculations, he stopped. He checked them again, then a third time. The answer couldn't possibly be right. His investments had earned more money over the previous 12 months than he had personally added during the entire year. For the first time in his life, his portfolio had become the hardest working part of his financial plan. That realization changed everything. Not because Ethan suddenly became rich, but because he realized the rules had quietly changed. His paycheck was no longer carrying the entire weight of his future. His investments had started carrying themselves. Claire never had that realization. She never thought to compare her contributions with her portfolio's growth. In her mind, wealth still came from discipline alone. My paycheck builds my future. That belief had served her well for years. The problem was, it was no longer completely true. Her investments were doing more work than she realized. But because she never recognized the transition, she continued behaving as if every dollar of progress depended entirely on her next contribution. The difference between Ethan and Claire wasn't intelligence. It wasn't income. It wasn't investment skill. Their portfolios were almost identical. The only thing separating them was awareness. One recognized the moment the game changed. The other kept playing by yesterday's rules. And over the next 3 decades, that single realization would shape not only how much they accumulated, but how much of life they actually allowed themselves to enjoy.